Welcome back to the AI Micro Skills podcast, where we're trying to educate marketers on how to leverage AI to do more and do better because the future is AI. And I'm excited now to talk to Courtney Baker, who is the CMO at Knownwell, about how to lead teams in this coming age of AI. Because as things change, a lot of it's changing for our workers. A lot of it's changing for all the different tactical silos of marketing from email and social and writing and soon video. I was just playing with the video tool. So as AI is changing all these things, so how we lead our teams will be changing. And Courtney, I'm excited to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So to kick it off, I have to ask, as AI becomes a bigger part of marketing, how do you think it's redefining your role as a marketing leader? I feel like digital marketing's kind of been tried and true over the last 10, 12 years. And there's been a certain rhythm for how to get leads in the digital realm with social and all that kind of stuff. But how do you see that kind of shifting now for your role as like a CMO and a marketing leader?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say for me, it's an interesting place to be in because I've come out of an established business and an executive role and into a startup role. And in some ways, that gives me an advantage because I'm so much closer to the weeds than I was in my previous role. And I'm able to see, okay, how is AI actually affecting the day-to-day work, the ins and outs of what's happening? And I think especially if I put myself back in my previous role, I think there has to be a real emphasis of training. There's so many pockets of AI education within organizations. Even at the highest level, you'll have, a small group of people that are really excited about that. I think that is the same in marketing teams now. I think for me, as I'm leading a team, I'm really examining, okay, where are we right now? Where is our expertise? What does our deployment of AI look like across the team? And then I'm really thinking through, how do we collectively level up our expertise as a marketing team? What experiments can we do collectively that drives value for our customers and drives value for the organization? And really engaging in that collectively versus what I think probably happens a lot of times. You get that person that's excited about AI and you just send them after it, versus, okay, how do we do this together and learn about this so that we all level up? And then I think it's a different mindset as a leader of asking, especially as you're getting the end result, in a very curious way, like, hey, how did AI play into this outcome? How were we able to leverage it in, whatever the thing is that we're creating as a marketing team? And I think if nothing else, that provides, hey, I am excited about this technology and really want to know as the leader how you're utilizing it. I am, how do I just keep that conversation going in forefront of our team? Because I think as we move into 2024, the excitement of 2023 starts to fade, and it's easy to just get back into, this is how I used to get work done, versus continually to push the edge on, how do I continue to examine my productivity, what I produce, and how AI can inform that.
So we're kind of in an interesting season where everybody's talking about it, but it's the people that I find actually taking action on are like these smaller teams, solopreneurs, and startups, right? Because there's less pain if something goes wrong, right?
Yes, it's very
So
true.
it's interesting now you left a larger team and now are on a startup team. Do you feel like more freedom to go and try some AI things and experiment, knowing that it's just less pressure to get it right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love experimentation. I probably would say that's probably something that's natural to me regardless, but it does all the bureaucracy or just having to check that, we've got the right regulation. And I think those things are incredibly important. I just don't have to do that right now because of the stage that we're in. And so we can move at lightning speed on testing a new thing. And And I think one important thing for me as I've been testing at lightning speed is to actually pause and make sure that we're tracking those tests so that as the technology evolves also at lightning speed, that I'm not having to do the brain work of remembering that experiment I've already done. It's just I've got it documented. It's easy to run it again and see, hey, is the technology at a place where it actually solves, this thing that I was trying to solve already, and not having to redo that mental work. But I totally agree. I think, these smaller teams are, especially in the marketing realm, able to deploy at a lot faster rate. I think it's exciting to see the things that are coming out of those teams.
As it's kind of always been true with small teams being able to make things. But I'm like, hey, AI is the thing. Like right now, it's the opportunity for small teams to get ahead of big teams, and I think AI is even better because it's. I mean, this is a phrase that I've seen for marketing. Other martech companies have been saying this of like, turn your team of 3 into a team of 30, and I'm like,
Mhm.
it's kind of true. Like, it kind of
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
With that
And I
being
will
said, though,
say
go ahead.
it's also, if you're on a small team or in a startup right now, you also don't have the burden of, hey, how is this going to restructure my team? How is this going to affect the people on my team? And I think certainly as a leader, that weighs on you when you have a larger team that, to your point, if I can have a team of 3 people and it actually equals 30, if you have a team of 30 and you really need 3, that's a big burden as a marketing leader to weigh through and figure out how to do that well, which also can slow you down, as you need to do the due diligence to walk that well.
How are you finding you're approaching a team? You're at a startup, you're building things, you have kind of like a team of contractors, but as you guys grow, you're going to have to
Mhm.
start recruiting people onto your team. So does this new AI thing kind of change how you look for talent now? Does that change how you're looking at like building a team? Before you're like, okay, like you're probably like, well, I need my demand gen person or my ad
Yeah,
person. I need my a graphic designer eventually. I need my copywriter. It was kind of like there was kind of known roles you'd hire, especially in the B2B
right.
space. How is that? How's AI changing that?
Well, I think first, I'm constantly thinking of or framing it up in what is the thing that we are, you know, creating that brings value to our, hopefully our customer, and thinking through, is there a way AI could already be doing this for us versus looking for a person to fill that role. So it may be just a slower onboarding, but if I'm like, AI can't help us with that, it's not there. Um, if I need to hire right now, I'm more likely to hire contractors because, again, the technology is moving so quickly. And I'm more likely to hire contractors that can showcase how they're leveraging AI and what they're doing. So I'm curious about those things of, hey, how is it? How are you using AI? Is it something that you're interested in? Because I also know I love to hire people that have already been a contractor for us full time. It's been my hiring cheat sheet for many a years. And so I think it's important out of the gate to, especially in this moment, that learning mindset, are they curious about what's happening in the marketing realm? I mean, you and I, this is our first conversation. We kind of get giddy about talking about the things. And that's what I'm looking for in people that are coming on the team. Is there excitement? And we say all the time on my podcast, the AI Know How podcast, that we've got a lot of executives with, proverbial AI hammers just looking for something to hit. And that's certainly not what we want to do.
Yeah.
But I do think there is that energy and excitement, that curiosity mindset that I'm looking at as I'm, considering bringing somebody on board.
Smart hiring or having contractors to hiring because
Yes.
is there anything like a test run in a
No.
contract or a freelance thing, something going on, right? That's like the ultimate test. And then
Yes.
it works out or it doesn't, and then it's no hard feelings, right? Oh,
Exactly.
smart.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Essentially, you're looking for probably the same roles, but with an AI, a bent towards AI, because AI hasn't really started replacing anybody yet, but it
Right.
probably will. We don't know when, but like
Yeah.
there's obviously Midjourney's come a long way, but it's not replacing graphic designers or illustrators yet. But we're
Mhm.
seeing the possibility where it could. I don't know.
Right.
It's like we're early on, but how do you think it like might? I don't know, but I think it's interesting that you're finding people with the AI bent because they're probably going to lean towards being more futuristic and being maybe
Yeah.
more productive.
Yeah,
Like if
and I
you're a
think
demand gen person, you're using AI. Well, you're probably maybe now doing the work of what used to take two demand gen people or three demand gen people
right.
the same amount of work 3 years ago. You can now do as a solo person because it's AI enhanced, right?
Exactly. And I don't know if that will cause us as marketers to have a, less specialization, like we're able to do a larger breadth, so roles aren't quite as specialized as they are today, or if it's just what you said, where it's, I can just do what two people could do previously. I think it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Because I imagine even when I was a graphic designer, like you could only design so many projects at once. And then if you only had one designer and the company was getting bigger, well, that one designer they'd be bottlenecked, right? Because you can
Yeah.
only design so many projects. But with AI, I mean, it's been a long time since I've been a full time designer, but even with Photoshop's AI tools that are currently available now, being able to do autofill or being able to come up with the stock photo that was going to take you 3 hours to find on iStock photo,
Right.
Midjourney can bam, pop it out with a few different prompts. You tweak it, and then maybe it's not perfect, but in Photoshop, you just circle the part you didn't want and you say, make it disappear, and it's gone. And it looks
Yeah.
good for
Right.
something that was just a
Yeah.
background image. You can now, I'm just looking at the work that I used to do it as a designer.
Yeah.
And now what used to take 3 hours because it just took a long time to find the perfect stock photo is now done in 30
Right.
minutes.
And
It's
I
a
will say that's
fraction of the
certainly
time.
been true in the startup phase. Some of it is things I wouldn't have even, because at this stage you are so capital efficient. I mean, you are just watching every dollar at this stage. And so there
Yeah.
are certainly things that like I will do in Canva, and we've got a team account, like we can whip up things in Canva.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's like hurting anyone else. It's because if I had to go to a designer, I probably would just say, we're not going to do that, you
Yeah.
know? And so I'm utilizing AI to just, produce those things. Or when I use clap.app to create our Google Shorts, it's again not taking away from a video
Yeah.
person. I wouldn't have gone and gotten a video person to do that. And so it's again your metaphor of 3 people becoming 30. And
Yeah.
it's like small pieces. It's not like a full-time job. It's just getting more from maybe things you wouldn't have been able to leverage previously is probably a more accurate at this stage, I would say, of where we are.
It's just I think our output's got to get better, and therefore the quality of everything we're doing is just going to get better
Yeah.
and more, right?
Mhm.
The graphic design's an easy one for me because there's a clear output of design pieces versus marketing's a little bit more ambiguous. But even then, like your Canva pieces are better. But eventually, when you have money to invest, you will still hire a designer because they will be able to do more better, right?
Right.
Instead of you doing Canva, now they're doing custom designs, and because they have AI tools and like Illustrator
Exactly.
has auto colors, like AI tools now, it's just
Yeah.
crazy. They'll just be able to put out faster things. And now your social post, which they may have only been able to budget 20 minutes to work on, will look like something that took 5 hours to make, right?
Exactly.
Just the social post
Exactly.
because they
And
spent the same 20 minutes on it, but now the AI made it like, bam, it looked good in 20 minutes.
right. Yeah.
And so everybody's quality is just going to go up, but we're probably still going to be hiring the same people for a
I
while.
totally agree. And I certainly, it's just where, like, I've leveraged the designer that we're working with on our website and our UX and our branding, things that I don't think, AI can't tell you if this logo and brand, if it has the emotional connection that you want with your audience. That's something AI, in my opinion, will never be able to do. We'll never be able to tell you, like, is this creative? It doesn't understand that in the same way that we would. And so I certainly think there's still going to be a huge opportunity and need for designers. I just don't think it's going to be in. Here's an example, Dan. I sent out an email today to our whole team, which is now global, by the way. And I was giving them an update on the brand, kind of change that I had decided on. And I was telling them, hey, sometimes it's hard to remember these things. I'm a big believer in internal language becomes external language. And I was telling them about a brain scientist. This is kind of all in my PS. I was just trying to make it fun. And I was like, I'm going to send them this hideous graphic that's like throwing away the old, terms, because we're more likely to remember it, if it's something, shocking.
Yep.
And I was like,
Yep.
me putting a shocking, hideous graphic. I, I might could have gone to a designer in my old days where I had, a team reporting to me of designers and asked for that. It would have been kind of a waste of their time. But now I can do that in literally 3 seconds on my own with these tools. And so I included it in the email, immediately got, this is hilarious. Thank you. Love this email. Again, it makes even like our communication better by using these tools. And some designer doesn't have to roll their eyes that they have to create some graphic for an executive
Internal
email.
graphic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Designers are funny.
Yeah.
That's a topic I
You
won't
can
get
only
into.
say that because
That's
you
another
started as one.
podcast interview.
Yeah.
If you were back at a larger team, knowing what you know about AI today, because obviously you've joined an AI startup, you've been reading and watching a lot of things. You have your own AI podcast where you're talking to people about AI. You've learned a lot over the last
Yeah.
6-8 months. If you could go back, or maybe if you were back in your same role at a previous company,
Mm-hmm.
how would you be preparing your team now based on what you know about AI and where it's going?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one thing that I have always been a big believer in is mindset and how you approach change, your ability for your brain to be flexible and understand your perceptions of things, what things are basically all the files that we hold. And so when we come to moments of change, how we approach them. And some of what we've already talked about really plays into that. Just I can tell a lot about you and how you've approached AI and your ability to have a mindset of learning. And I think I probably would have double clicked even more into that, especially now knowing how much fear would come from this. That's not my natural disposition. I'm much more like, let's get in there. Let's get our hand, like, let's figure out what this can do for us. I'm much more likely to be like, think of all the health benefits of what this might bring for humanity, versus the fear side of it. But a lot of times I'm not leading people that are in that same, built that same way. And so that ability to really get a mindset ready for this type of transformation. And I think keeping it in perspective that this is a huge transformation helps in leadership. Again, because I think a lot of times you get to this stage of leadership and you like the change. You're excited about those types of things, but that is in general not who you lead. And so I would be preparing them for that. I would also be preparing just maybe even a more robust ability to experiment.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What is that ongoing cadence? How are we talking about that in our team meetings? How do we just go ahead and install that into the very nature of our team dynamic? I'd say those are probably the two things.
It's funny. When I first started leading people, I'm probably a little weird in that I just love learning. I hated school, but I love learning, and I always do. I still am. Read a lot, and this whole podcast is because I want to learn more about AI
Yeah.
and talk to people who are like pushing it and figuring things out and leading and exploring things. But I noticed a lot of people aren't that way. Some
Mm-hmm.
people, they kind of like what they know, and they kind of like doing the not repetitive work, but like they kind of like staying in their groove and doing the same thing.
Yeah.
How would you be encouraging those people? Because there's a good amount of them, and honestly, I love them because I'm like, somebody just needs to show up and do excellent work and just do it
Right.
consistently. But
Absolutely.
at the same time, looking at what this uphill thing of AI, I'm like, that starts to become dangerous, not just for the company, but for that person's career in
Right.
some
Right.
forms, in some places in the marketing
Yeah.
team. How would you be
Yeah.
encouraging them?
I think that's a good, what you just said is a little insight into it. But I think framing this up, one, as an experiment, I think anytime you have somebody that's like hesitant to change, if you can frame it in something that is short term, like, hey, we're testing out this new video tool for the next month, that kind of pulls down the barrier. But I think anytime you can frame things in light of what it is for them, what it means for them, and I think it does become harder in this situation where you've got a lot of people just afraid for their job. And so I think some of it is, how do we handle that fear? And sometimes that fear is accurate. We don't actually know, what marketing team makeup. We've already talked about, we actually don't know. Will roles be as specialized? Will they take on what will that? We don't know. And so some of that is just like, how do we take the fear level down a few notches? And then how do we really reframe this for what's in it for them? Because there actually is a lot of opportunity for anybody that's willing to say, yeah, I'm really interested in this. I want to learn more about it. I just said earlier on this podcast, I'm looking for people who are interested about AI. That's the type of people I want to be bringing onto my team. And so if we can reframe, hey, this is actually a really great opportunity for your role. And I would say that is probably true for just about any employee, that AI is a great opportunity for them. And so if they're willing to step into it, if you can frame it up like that, I think you're much more likely to keep moving them towards it and leaning in a little more.
I guess constant encouragement, hanging a carrot, making it safe to
Yeah.
fail, right? It's like all these different things.
Oh,
I
safe to
once led
fail.
an
Yes.
internship
Yeah.
where I
Good.
was trying to encourage the interns to like experiment, try things, fail.
Yeah.
I made this huge poster. I try to make it a core value of the department. Like, you're going to fail. And I had this big grumpy cat poster of like, you're going to fail. Good.
Yeah.
Grumpy
Yeah.
cat. I even had this award we called the Mulligan, where it's like this golfer little trophy. And I would celebrate it if they screwed up.
I
Like,
love it.
it
Yes.
ended up being a little bit too much because they'd be like not wanting to advertise that they had screwed up, even though I was trying to make it like, yeah, we screwed up. You tried something. It didn't work. Great. You
Yeah.
earned the Mulligan Award. It's on your desk now.
Yeah. It's awesome.
But it
I love
is
that.
a hard thing. I think even with all that, it's still the people who had a growth mindset embraced
Mhm.
failure, and the people with the fixed mindset still kind of were really hesitant to try to
Yeah.
get out there and try stuff. I will
Yeah,
say, looking
absolutely.
back and seeing some of the careers of those people progress, the ones with the growth mindset obviously flourished more, and the ones with the fixed mindsets less so. But
Yeah.
it is an interesting thing. That mindset is a big thing.
It is a huge thing, and really, I think really comes to the foreground in these moments of, oh gosh, if I would have been working on that, where could I be today?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we go back to the early days of social or the web, if you had the mindset to think, oh my gosh, what could this be? Like, what could I start learning at, picking up here and there? I think your trajectory just looks different today, depending on how you engaged in those transformations. And again, I think those transformations were small compared to this one. And I know you've probably heard that. I really do believe that. So I think it's worth continuing to encourage, continue to talk about it in a spirit of positivity. We're all in this together. I think that's the other thing that I would lean into is, even if you do have pockets of people that know more, really, they're still beginners. We are
Yeah.
all still
Yep.
beginners. And
Yep.
so leveling that field, it's okay to be a beginner. I actually like to talk about being a beginner and failing at things to my children, because they're beginners all the time. And so that, even with our teams, like, how do we reset that bar and just be in it together?
Yeah. I love that. Embracing student mindset. I think that's a big thing. I've actually just changed my LinkedIn profile, whatever that main bio header line is right under your name, to just a marketer trying to master AI in 2024. So I'm
Yes.
not pretending to know anything. I'm with everybody else. We're all
I love
beginners just
that.
trying to
I
figure this
love
thing
that.
out.
That's so good. That's so good. I'm gonna steal
Yeah.
that. No, I'm just kidding. Can you write me a better one? Actually, never mind. I'll ask AI too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm like, just ask GPT. Yeah. How have you seen AI impacting your strategy process? Are you leaning into AI more as you're crafting your go-to-market?
Oh, totally. Yeah. It
How
is
so?
it is okay, so I now work 100% remote, yet I'm an external processor. I don't know that my fiddly fig beside me wants to really converse. I mean, it's just there is that part of me still wants to like bounce ideas off. I want to
Yeah.
talk about things. And so I really use it as kind of a thought partner. So I'll throw ideas in. I will ask it like, what would you do to improve this? And really, it's almost filling that gap of needing
Yeah.
to externally process things with someone. Again, it's not as fun as a person, but it
Yeah.
does fulfill that need for me. And so I constantly run things through it. Even if I think I've gotten a great idea, I will just go plug it in and see, hey, what would you do with this? Is there something better than I could do with this? And sometimes it's not. Sometimes my idea is better. Sometimes there's like a tiny little nugget or a phrase or something that I think clarifies the idea better that I pull out of it. Again, it's going back to it's just making my strategy just that much better, and certainly making it better in me having someone to dialogue with, and bounce ideas off of. So that's really how I've been using it.
I love it. I had a conversation with Carl Ye about using AI as a co-pilot, and that's kind of where I see you using it right
Yep.
here. Is essentially you're using it to
Mhm.
kind of help you co-think about things, and it is
Yes,
really helpful. There's
it
multiple times,
is.
even for my own business, I've been like, "Hey, here's a proposal I'm sending to a client. What's missing?"
Yeah,
And it'll go through and be like, "Hey, based on what you read, it's really good that you have A, B, and C. I love X, Y, and Z. Here's some things you should consider." I'm like,
exactly.
no, but that other thing, that's a good consideration to make.
Yep. Yeah.
you know?
It is. I think it does a fantastic job in its current state at that, and it's gonna keep getting better.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait. I tried to make a custom GPT that was like a life coach, and I fed it all the
Yes.
information about myself, strength finders,
Uh-huh.
profile,
Yep.
life goals, core values, all the stuff. And I like, ask me questions, be my life coach. And
Yeah.
it failed absolutely miserably. I didn't realize like the first custom GPT I was trying to put together, and it was like the worst possible thing you could have ever asked a
Yeah.
GPT to try to be as a life coach.
I will say there is some data coming out about, therapists that people are more willing to tell, like an AI
Yeah.
driven therapist about what's going on in their lives than a person. And even if you go back to my strategy, there, and as much as like think I'm a pretty collaborative person and love to talk things out with people, there are certainly times where I may hold back on not knowing something or being unsure about something that I will, who cares? I can just put it in and say like, will this, like give me some other ideas. You could even ask like, what's the viability of this, to get some input that I have no concern on the emotional side of if it thinks my idea is good or bad or any kind of, it's not providing any kind of judgment on the thing. Where with people, you always have
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So it's just it's an interesting dynamic, but a very powerful tool.
So many different questions I could follow up with that, but it gets so sci-fi real quick that I'm like, nah.
And you can
As
go
much as I'm
really
it's
deep, really
this isn't
quickly.
that
Yeah,
show. As
yeah.
much as I would like to go in that direction right now, I'm like, nope, we're gonna stop there.
Okay.
Get back to the practicals.
Yeah.
Kind of a final question for you. Where do marketing leaders need to be focusing over the next 6 months? Because it's hard to predict past 6 months with
Yeah.
AI. Even before we even started recording, I was showing you this new tool that I thought was really cool about video AI. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't think
Yeah.
I'd be using any video AI tools for another 6 months to a year. But here it
Yeah.
is. It's actually something that could be useful that I'm evaluating. It's moving so fast. What do you think you need to be focused on next 6 months?
Yeah, I think if you're not already working on leveling up your team and their knowledge base, like now is the time. I think right in the next 6 months, I think you'll see a lot more AI tools that are ready off the shelf. Um, that's going to be a great opportunity. And things that are not on the what we would call the execution level of work. If you think about it as, manual labor being the bottom level of work that's being done. When it comes to AI, we've been doing that for decades. That's robotics. Right now, we're at that execution level. And that's, the personal, it's me talking to ChatGPT. It's me getting, how can I get this graphic done fast? It's all about just me executing my job faster. I think the next level up from that is like the operations of the business and how do we cross functionally work? How does information and intelligence across the organization, how does AI start to work in those realms? And I think I'm really excited about that. That's where our Knownwell, our platform, lives in. And so I think as you get in the next 6 months, you're going to have more opportunity in that realm. And that's something a lot of marketers aren't maybe not aware of yet, that we are here in the execution level and that there's a whole nother horizon of work in an organization that AI is going to start to be part of and change the way that works. So again, I would say right now, leveling up your team, working on the execution level, but having the visibility that we're going to go to a whole nother level of work in the organization that AI is going to start to impact. So getting your team ready for that.
Fantastic. Courtney, where can people go to learn more from you? Like, what are your best channels in order for people to reach out with questions and
Yeah.
dive more into what you're doing now with Knownwell?
Yeah. Well, if you're interested in, we are building an intelligent enterprise operating system. And the first product on the platform is Knownwell Client Intelligence. So, all about retaining your clients, pulling in all the different structured data as well as natural, like routine communication in your organization to signal you when clients are in trouble. So, if you're interested in finding out more about that, you can go to knownwell.com and join our beta waitlist. You can also find our podcast at AI Know How wherever you listen to your podcast. And then you can find me on LinkedIn. I can't even think of my own handle. This is how bad I am at promoting myself.
Link in the show notes.
Yes, link in
We'll
the
get it
show
in there.
notes. Thank you. I think that's everything.
Yep. I'm hoping to do a deep dive with your head of technology soon, and we're going to be exploring
Yes.
the whole Knownwell thing, how it works, getting into some of the nitty gritty.
Gonna be
But I'm really
amazing.
looking forward to that episode. That's why I held back
Yeah.
on your platform. Usually,
Yeah.
I like to dive into tools
Actually,
section, but we're going
yeah,
to be doing a whole episode on Knownwell because I think it's
yeah.
that fascinating.
I'm so excited about that. I will say if you are a marketing leader and wanting to just look at your readiness, we do have a free assessment, knownwell.com/assessment. And you can go through our whole proprietary readiness assessment and kind of figure out where you are right now, where you need to go. Just know ahead of time, you're probably not going to be great. That's okay. It's going to show you where the areas that you need to be improving on more specifically.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you.